approximately 6,000 square feet of area.
It should be up to.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Nancy.
Welcome to the June 25th meeting of Manhattan Community Board 5, Land Use Housing and Zoning Committee. I'm Nancy Gosho, Chair of the committee, and Julie Chu is my vice chair. And we are joined by a number of committee members. And we will start with those that are present in the room tonight with
So, Saul Zolkowitz.
Kevin Frizz.
David Sigmund.
Seth Wood. Tristan Haas.
Lydia Hatton.
Murnau Vikram.
Julie, and I'm Nancy. Is there anyone online? Any of our members online?
No.
Okay,
Not the moment.
so any items voted on this meeting tonight will be voted on by the full board at our Thursday, June 10th, full board meeting. Before we start our agenda, are there any members of the public or committee members that have any new business items? Someone has their hand raised.
Who could it be?
Hello,
Hello, can you hear me okay? Hi, I'm Charles. I'm a resident and constituent of this community board and member of the public. My new business is I just wanted to bring attention to the fact that there was an article recently on June 11th with a BK Reader that was talking about and it is relevant to what we do here at the Land Use Committee. Just the tale of a community board, Brooklyn Community Board 8, who, when they tried to vote for the Atlantic rezoning plan, they actually realized, because they felt rushed and didn't understand the plan well enough and didn't have enough time to do research and fact checking, that actually they left off deeply affordable housing, which they wanted. They wanted 20% of units in a building for people who make a medium
But
income.
Charles, I hate to interrupt you, but this is new business item. It's just a topic. What is your topic for a new business item? Then we will consider it. This is not time for comment, please.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. I was just getting to the point. Yeah, my new business is I hope that things can be explained fully when it comes to land use issues, that all board members fully understand what they vote on, so that this doesn't happen to them as happened to that community board, where those members didn't realize the full extent of what they were actually voting for.
Okay, thank you, Charles. Any other public new issues? Seeing no hands, let's go forward to the meeting. How the meeting will be run in this order. After each presentation, committee members will ask questions, and then we will take questions and comments from the public. While there's no time limit on comments, we ask that you speak succinctly and avoid repetition of a prior speaker and speak to the issue at hand, okay? Use the raised hand function. Julie will call on you. After the public questions and comments, we'll go into our business session where only committee members and board members will participate in the discussion. There'll be no further input from the public unless recognized by me, the chair. Board members will be promoted to panelists for our business session. Finally, after that, I will call a motion, a second, then take a vote. After the last agenda item, we'll adjourn the meeting. So we have 3 items on our agenda tonight. The Department of City Planning is going to give us an overview of the Manhattan Plan for more housing. Then we have a ULURP application seeking a zoning text amendment and special permit for signage at 1551 Broadway in Times Square. And the third item is a presentation by one of our fellows from the Fund for the City of New York on public restrooms in our district.
Yay.
So I'd just like to alert everyone that to presenters, public attendees, and committee members, we have another meeting right after this meeting. So we're going to keep our 30 minutes for each item agenda. I'm also asking the public to keep their comments brief and try to stay within a 2-minute limit. After the 3 agenda items, we will adjourn this meeting and go into a closed executive committee meeting. Okay, so we're ready for the Department of City Planning to begin your presentation.
Great. Thank you so much. Let me know if you can't hear me for some reason. Good evening, everyone. My name is Connie Chan. I'm from the Department of City Planning, joined by my colleague Jen Gravel, who is also here today. And thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight about the Manhattan Plan. This is an initiative to take on the housing crisis by adding 100,000 new homes to the borough of Manhattan in the next decade. Since this initiative was announced earlier this year, we've heard the question, why are you looking at Manhattan? Didn't we just do City of Yes? What is this all about? And I'll show you kind of, some slides in a moment, but just for now, want to highlight a few points, that I think we may all know, but is something that we do want to kind of get out there, which is that, as a resident of Manhattan, you have access to the highest concentration of jobs anywhere in the city, as well as, the most public transit infrastructure and resources that can take you anywhere in the borough and the rest of the city and beyond even. So Manhattan is truly an engine of opportunity. And for most of its history, it's been a place where people of all backgrounds could find a home and build a life. But over the last several decades, that possibility has been slipping further out of reach. Because while in some ways it's the most accessible borough because of the things that I mentioned, it's also become the least accessible borough to live in, as housing costs rise and housing production lags behind in comparison to the other boroughs. So we're looking to reverse that trend by unlocking new housing, which includes a significant amount of income restricted affordable housing, so that more people of all income levels can experience what Manhattan has to offer. So I will explain a little bit more about the plan and the process for how we're going to get there, but just want to share that this plan is not an implementation plan for ideas that have already been researched and analyzed deeply and vetted and decided on. This plan is really going to present a wide-ranging set of strategies and ideas that could support us collectively in getting to 100,000 new homes. And so we want to ask people, where in Manhattan should we add more housing? What are the areas where the zoning should be revisited potentially? What are the policies or regulatory tools that could be relooked at, or are there new tools that could help to achieve this goal? And what does equitable housing growth look like? So this plan will be different from the kinds of work that the Department of City Planning typically works with community boards on, such as neighborhood studies or rezonings, where we focus on a specific site or a specific area and really collaborate with you to develop and refine a proposal. And so we certainly want to solicit ideas from you and from others that we anticipate may include specific sites or specific areas where new housing might be located. The ideas that we hear are going to be compiled in this plan document that presents opportunities across the entirety of the borough. And so I think also having that opportunity to zoom out and have conversations across the borough at a borough-wide level rather than a neighborhood-specific level or a site-specific level is really unique and exciting. So any of the ideas that are in the Manhattan Plan could be further considered and evaluated or potentially advanced after the plan is published. We anticipate the plan to be published at the end of this year, so that's in December of 2025. And our goal is really to develop a report that captures, the many ideas that will come out of a public engagement process, offering a toolkit of strategies to boost housing production. So whether ideas inform kind of future neighborhood plans or broader policies, we want the report to elevate the solutions that you all want to see happen. So this is really an ideas generating and ideas collection process. This is not a proposal for a specific zoning change or a policy change. There will not be public hearings or votes. This is not subject to ULURP. And we recognize that, many community boards, including yourselves, have been proactively thinking about the kinds of questions that we want to pose to the public. You may have already developed, specific ideas for where housing could be located in your district. And so we want to make sure to build on and incorporate the thinking and the ideas that you've already developed. But also our hope is to bring new voices into this conversation and hear new ideas and new perspectives. So we are making a concerted effort to engage with kind of everyday New Yorkers that maybe don't think about these questions in the same way that you do. And in order to make sure that we reach as many people as possible, we're partnering with a consultant. The name of the firm is Agency Landscape and Planning, and they're going to be supporting the public engagement effort, which I can tell you a little bit more about. So we will have a project. We actually have a project website. It is live now. It's manhattanplan.nyc. We can send it out or put it in the chat. The website includes an online survey that we hope as many people as possible will take. And the survey will not only ask about ideas that people might have about where and how to bring new housing opportunities to Manhattan, but it will also ask about people's experiences with housing. You know, why do you live in Manhattan? Why did you choose your specific neighborhood? Did you make trade-offs to live here? So trying to understand a little bit more about the experiences that people have with housing kind of in their lives is something that's really kind of important to this initiative. So in addition to having an online survey and a digital presence, we also want to be out across the city speaking with New Yorkers directly. And so we'll be at local events across the city. So last week we were tabling at the Union Square Green Market. We'll have some additional events coming up as well. But I'll stop there and just share that last month at the end of May, we invited community board leaders to kind of get a preview before we launched publicly of what was coming up ahead. And I don't want to kind of, redo that necessarily. I know that time is limited, but I'll just pause now and see if folks have any questions that we can answer kind of right off the bat about, what the Manhattan Plan is about.
Okay, so thank you so much. My question is, there's no slides yet or anything or any presentation. Is that all up on the website?
You know what, if helpful, I can go through the slides that we shared at the end of May and maybe do an abridged version. If there's a section that people are more interested in, perhaps we could stop there. I just wanted to be mindful of time, but I'm happy to do that if you think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. Can you
Okay.
put something up for us to see?
Sure.
I think one of our concerns is we just went through the MSMX rezoning plan where we talked a lot about housing. And our big concern is it looks like we are being ignored. And so we're frustrated with the process and actually feel like we wasted a lot of time doing a lot of nothing, which we thought was important. And actually, according to DCP, it's not important at all. So we're disappointed and frustrated about being ignored. So we're very interested in finding out what this housing plan is going to be about because we feel we have to stay engaged as much as possible.
Got it. I will share the slides, but just so I can understand, when you say that you feel ignored, that means in the context of the Manhattan Plan and not kind of understanding what's coming down the pike, or kind of, is that what you mean?
Our resolution for MSMX.
Hours and hours and
Hours and
of
hours
work.
of public testimony, and I know this isn't your thing, but you're in a different silo than this, but we see it all as one action as we move forward, and so we want to stay very engaged, and we want reporting back from what you're finding, because what we found in public testimony was quite different than what the Department of City Planning is moving forward with, which is upsetting to us because it means Department of City Planning is not listening to the community. So that's a frustration for us. Anyone else want to drop in on this?
Yeah, I just want to add on this, particularly in this particular process, first around City of Yes, but very much so during MSMX, we spent hours and hours, so many people, so hard to try to bring so many different thoughts and ideas together and created a very long memo of agreement, and it was just flushed away.
Anyone else want to say, anyone else?
I'm curious, what is this plan? This, I attended that meeting and I'm still unsure what the Manhattan Plan is, so if you can present something. So we could hear what this is about. We'll provide you.
Yes. No, I definitely want to make sure that folks are clear about what we're doing. And, as far as MSMX goes, I think our intention, we recognize that there's initiatives, happening of different kinds and scales all over, and to the extent that we can, the ask is not to, I feel sorry that you feel ignored, but to the extent that the conversations and the discussions that you've had, can be applicable here in the Manhattan Plan, we certainly want to be able to make use of that and benefit from the extensive discussion and deliberation that you have already been engaged with for quite some time.
Yeah, since January.
Okay, I'm going to put up some slides. I will go through them. I can take more time, but I am trying to be mindful of time, but happy to stop. Please just shout out or someone can let me know if we want to stop. I do want to make sure that everyone does leave with a clear understanding of what it is that we're doing, and different ways that you can engage, so that,
And Connie, can you
clear.
forward this slideshow to us?
yes,
to the board?
absolutely. We can send that afterward. That's, of course,
We would like to post it on our website. We
Got
like
it.
to do that.
that would be.
Thank
great.
you.
Of course. So here's kind of an overview of what the Manhattan Plan is about. Spoke to this earlier about kind of this goal of adding 100,000 new homes to the borough, with kind of one of the main thrusts of this being really seeking out ideas from different stakeholders across the borough, including everyday New Yorkers that just, live here or want to live here, et cetera, to capture a wide range of ideas for how to unlock housing opportunities. And so we want to be really expansive about the kind of ideas that people should feel free and welcome to offer. It could be things like zoning, policy, regulatory, but it could be things that are, out of the box, maybe things that you've seen in other cities or in other countries that don't happen here in New York City, and you want to know why. We really want to be kind of welcoming of all kinds of ideas, whether they're very kind of, a vacant lot sitting on a corner and it's ready for something to happen, versus something that's a little bit, maybe further afield and longer term. We really welcome all kinds of ideas. In terms of a focus on Manhattan and kind of a rationale for that, I also did speak to that a little bit, but just sharing about kind of the locational advantages and the kind of inequity in terms of being able to access housing in Manhattan, and how just historically, like, people have been able to live in Manhattan and access it, and how that's becoming further and further from reality for many households. One of the things just to share is around kind of production of new housing across the city. So in general, housing demand continues to exceed supply. We have a lot of people that want housing here, people that want to move from one apartment to another, people that want to move to New York City. And certainly that applies here in the borough. And, Manhattan as a borough used to be a leader in the city in kind of annual housing production in the earlier decades. But kind of in recent years, the new housing production has fallen, and Manhattan has produced less housing than every borough, with the exception of Staten Island. And of the new housing that is produced in Manhattan, it's uneven. We have some areas that have produced lots of housing. We have others that have produced, little to none. And then we actually have some areas that have lost housing in recent years. And, sometimes I think that there's like some dissonance with that. Like, how can that be? There is construction happening. And it doesn't mean that there aren't new units being generated or constructed, but whatever those new units are equal to or even exceeded by the amount of units lost through demolitions and alterations. And some of those areas are shown in pink, where we actually have seen a net loss in housing in certain areas. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not in the right mode. I apologize. I hope people could see the slides. And then I think this one, this point of Manhattan becoming increasingly unaffordable doesn't require a lot of explanation. But the next most expensive borough in terms of median asking rents is Brooklyn, and it's 30% higher here. And so the escalation in rents is something that people are probably familiar with, and almost half of Manhattanites are rent burdened, and we have a very low vacancy rate. In terms of the income restricted affordable housing on the map here, it shows the areas that are currently mapped as mandatory inclusionary housing areas. Obviously, they're limited. The kind of the neighborhood plans that have been advanced. And so there's a lot of opportunity for this tool to be applied elsewhere. And something that's not on this map, which is important to highlight, is the Universal Affordability Preference, which is a new tool through City of Yes that essentially applies in most of the borough that isn't included in these kind of pink areas where residential is permitted, where, so we have MIH in these limited areas, and now we have the Universal Affordability Preference. And so the ability to kind of bring online more income restricted affordable housing is something that we're really interested in. And so, City of Yes was great, but it won't be enough. And we really want to build on the momentum from City of Yes and, create a set of ideas that's really unique to Manhattan. So in terms of where should we grow, I think, we don't want to be prescriptive about this. We want people to come up with their own ideas, but, we're open to anything. This could include, the CBDs, transit corridors, zoning districts that, still don't permit housing from being built. And, we want to kind of open up that question to you all and to people across the borough. I think with respect to kind of the zoning, zoning kind of regulations being revisited, obviously, MSMX is something that's in ULIP right now and kind of spoke about that. There's, that is an area where, no new residential is permitted. That's currently underway, but there are other areas in the city as well. And maybe those regulations are appropriate, maybe not, but they're certainly worth another look. We have areas such as in Special Hudson Yards where you have, different FARs permitted for commercial versus residential uses. Is a 33 for commercial and a 4 FAR in a certain area appropriate? Maybe, maybe not. But again, it's worth another look. And there's other areas where you have FARs that are suppressed for different reasons in different ways, such as, 125th Street. So these are all things that, we basically to say we are open to your ideas. And the ideas should not be focused exclusively on areas where zoning could be revisited, but it certainly can include those kinds of ideas. And then in terms of how should we grow, also this list is just kind of like a very, high level list of things that could possibly be looked at again. So for example, we have new high density zoning districts that were created through City of Yes. This is a great opportunity to think across the entire borough, where are the appropriate places to map those kinds of districts. City of Yes had parking, requirements that were reduced. Do we want to revisit that more? Question mark. Certainly looking at city-owned sites and how we can better use those is always something that's top of mind for a lot of people. All of the different processes that are involved in development, whether it's environmental review, permitting, et cetera, and kind of innovative construction methods or other things that, are kind of out there that we may not be looking at as a city. So in terms of getting to the plan, which would be published again in December of 2025, so far kind of in the earlier stages, we've been revisiting kind of past plans, past projects, published reports that have been put out by various different groups and elected officials on this topic, coordinating with our sister agencies on this. And from June to really September, this is our public engagement focus kind of period where we want to be asking as many people as possible and soliciting their ideas. And so that includes everyone that we can kind of reach. And we want to be able to give people different ways to engage with us. So we have a website. It has an online survey. We recognize that can have very broad reach. We also want to talk with people in person. And if folks, want to reach out to us by email, we're open to that too. So there's just different ways that we want to be able to reach as many people as possible. In the fall, we'll be synthesizing all of the ideas that we heard from this kind of June to September range, and then publishing the report in December. In terms of those in-person events, just to give you an idea, we're trying to, cover different areas of the borough. These 6 events are events that we've had so far. We will have more events coming in July and August. We're trying to kind of locate, very high traffic places that are frequented by a lot of local residents and workers. And to the extent that we can kind of, collaborate or coordinate with other events that draw lots of people out into spaces, that's kind of our goal. And our website is up. The URL is here, manhattanplan.nyc. It's a very kind of user-friendly website when we kind of share what the Manhattan Plan is, what we're trying to do, and it provides links to the online survey that we want to make sure people get and fill out so we can hear their ideas and their experiences. And so that's pretty much what I have to share. But, want to hopefully use the remainder of the time to take any questions and make sure that folks have a good sense of what it is that we're doing. And, happy to hear comments or take questions.
Julie, thank you. That was great. Good beginning. And this really kicked off because you told us about your Union Square community tabling event. And that's when we said, hey, we need to find out more about what's going on. So that's why we invited you here tonight. So thank you for coming and thank you for the presentation. Now we have questions. Julie, too.
Actually, I don't have questions. I have comments.
Yeah.
Anyone else have questions? David.
Where did the 100,000 unit number come from, Connie? Is that like 20% of the 500,000 units that the mayor has talked about, or what is that number?
I think it's a good question. I think it is. They are aspirational numbers, and they are round, and they're round, and they're moonshot numbers. There's not an exact science behind that, but it's a really good question.
Other questions? Uncle?
Am I correct that if we did build the 100,000 new units and they were filled with like 2 or 3 people per apartment, we'd still be at a Manhattan that's like below its peak population and that we achieved earlier in the beginning of the 20th century? So it was.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you've done the math, then maybe, but perhaps. I know just preferences and lifestyles have changed a lot. The profile of like the Manhattan household has changed a lot. You know, we've seen household sizes go down and apartments get combined, and so it's, you know, we want to recognize the sort of the environment and the world we live in now, but also think about how can we create more housing that serves all of the different kinds of households and people that want to live in New York City. So,
I
yeah,
did some rough, but I asked because you guys have better access to information. It just
Yeah.
seemed that.
yeah. I mean, it's an interesting point. I'm curious now and may go back and try to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other questions from anyone on the committee? Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm curious, given different interests, I think there's a shared hope that we do increase the housing across the borough, but different interests from business leaders, perhaps those in the community. If there's any type of further down the road for the public outreach time period that you're looking for at the end of Q3, perhaps to bring some of these folks together for maybe some roundtable conversations. So ideas once formulated could be shared and discussed in a forum or anything like that.
Yeah, so we are planning to do a number of roundtables with the support of our consultant, including a roundtable with sort of business and civic leaders in the city to talk about specific, as well as other constituents, but specifically on that topic to think about like how can housing support the business community and how can we make sure we have this balance between having enough commercial space to support the city's sort of employment growth, but also its housing needs. So I mean, these are our questions that we want, and we want to get ideas from those communities too about how to like strike that balance.
These various roundtables and meetings, are you planning on recording them so we can see them online if we're not able to join them?
That's my fault, yeah.
Yeah, I mean I think that these conversations people feel sort of more comfortable speaking candidly, knowing like that they're not like recorded and shared verbatim, but we'll certainly like compare notes and share the summaries of what comes out of those conversations. But we weren't planning on necessarily like making the meetings themselves public.
Our approach on this land use zoning committee for
Yeah.
5 is to bring all stakeholders together and come together as a group with a solution that we all support. So that's why we also want to see these various opinions
Yeah.
are various stakeholders, because we would like to help you mold it together, because
Sure.
that's our responsibility.
Yeah.
Or even perhaps knowing when those will take place once you set the time, and we could have set that as a deadline for our input as well to know.
Yeah.
The balance.
We're
So-
still
so
in the
one of the-
process of scheduling those, but we can certainly.
So one of the things that we want to do is, anyone that has a question,
Yeah.
after you're done, I'd like you to send the written questions to Julie in an email. She will put them all together and then she will send them off to Connie and to Jennifer so that you have a beginning sense of some of the questions we're asking. Any other questions? So,
2 questions and I'll forward them to you and also comments separately. So the 2 questions, one is, you know, and David and both Anchor raised this, whether it's 100,000 units, however many more, will there be consideration in this plan for all the necessary green space infrastructure that more development will demand? And 2, and this is a landmine question, will you consider eminent domain?
I mean, this is an ideas generating process. So, you know, it's not what we'll consider, it's what other people are suggesting we should consider. And then we'll be sort of looking at reporting back out those ideas and thinking about which ones we think have the most promise. And I think to your question on green space, you know, I think certainly we're thinking about, like, we want to think about where are those areas that have enough green space to support more density, and where are there places there are a shortage, and where do we need to really think about like if you're adding, you know, more people to that space and more users to that green space, how, you know, how do we make up for that? How can we be creative about making up for that?
That's very important to us because we
Yeah.
want, what we want at Community Board 5 in our district are livable neighborhoods. And livable neighborhoods means open space, green space. Any other questions on the committee? Comments? Julie?
Yeah, my comment piggybacks on Joel's question. Basically, I'm concerned that you guys are looking at housing as a silo because housing does need so much more. And, you know, you say Manhattan has a lot of good transit and jobs, but then our transit is falling apart. We need that open space. Sustainability, the
Yeah.
heat, urban heat,
Yeah.
and all these things.
Yeah.
So you had the $100,000 number, but what about the amount of open space that correlates with that, the amount of schools? We just did
Yeah.
MSMX, there is no city-owned land in our district, so where are you gonna provide all these amenities that need land?
Yeah, so the city does the city agencies do a lot of planning sort of independent of this. I would say this is not a typical sort of like land use plan and rezoning. If we were to come back and actually implement changes to create the units, then those changes would have to go through the land use review process and environmental review. Additional units would get incorporated to if the SCA is doing its school seats planning, those projections would, you know, get another
I
process.
know
So
you say that,
yeah.
Jennifer, but we
Yeah.
just had CP come to us with 10,000 units without any mitigation to open space or schools or anything. So it's, you know, that's why we're really concerned about this. And, you know, it just seems like you are pushing density, but not, and we understand it's the way the city is organized and the silos between the agencies, but it's really concerning. And you know, we also addressed the charter reform this past week. But whatever you can do to think about, you know, every site is an opportunity to not just provide housing, but address green space, address sustainability, you know.
Infrastructure.
You talk about what's going on abroad. Copenhagen is gonna be net zero by 2030. They're addressing polycrises, housing, sustainability, all sorts of stuff in one overall planning. And it's just,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that in New York, where you have these housing things going on and not thinking holistically. It
I
just
don't think
seems
we're looking for answers. I think we're just giving you input.
Yeah. No, I
Okay.
understand. Yeah, it's good
Okay.
feedback. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
Ankur has a comment.
Yeah, speaking about backing a bit off of this, I hear at a lot of community board meetings and a lot of the meetings that we've had here when there's rezonings, concerns about some of the other effects. I always find it helpful personally if your analysis includes costs and trade-offs, because sometimes it might be, yes, we can get more open space, but it may cost a certain number of units, and that'll give us a better perspective. Maybe you can get a lot of open space without losing a lot of units, and that's a great idea. Other times it might be, oh, we might lose a lot of the units and a lot of housing, and then we might think that's a bit of a worse idea. But I think it helps us analyze things when you show us the trade-offs that are involved and how you're coming to your thinking about housing versus other amenities. Thanks.
Okay, we have one public member, Jim Wright, who would like to speak. Go ahead, Jim, let's keep it brief.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I would reiterate the comments about DCP coming to the community board with preconceived ideas about what they want to achieve without going through a real planning process. And my question is, what is the final product here? Is there going to be an allocation of number of units desired by community district? Is there going to be a graphic plan showing densities? It's kind of hard to get my head around a process that would produce 100,000 units in 7 months with real community input And if not, what is the purpose of this document? I guess that's what I'm really trying to understand. It's not clear to me what the end result is or the goal of the product. Thanks.
Yeah, it won't be it's not gonna show like we're gonna have, 5,000 units in board 5 and 10,000 units in board 12. It is basically a compendium of ideas. It may include rezonings, it may include regulatory change, and admittedly, some of those things will be achievable in a decade and some of them not. But I think we want to think big picture about how do we increase the opportunity to build more housing. And the 100,000 units is, I think it's a helpful sort of tool to think about it. It's an exercise to get people to really think sort of how do we achieve this? But I wouldn't sort of like fixate on that in a number that has to get met. It's really how do we sort of start to lay the groundwork and thinking about, well, where is there opportunities? How can we think about what could be potentially in a program for the next term, for the next 2 terms, and how do we sort of begin to socialize some of these ideas and get some support and find out, where there's interest. And I know that, city planning has ideas and have done analysis on where we think there's opportunity, but we know other people have good ideas too. And we want to hear those perspectives. We want to hear people's experiences. We want to hear their concerns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would suggest if there's any way to build in a interim draft of the report so that could be reviewed, I think that would be really useful to the public and community boards to be able to help provide relevant input. So I would suggest that.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Jim. Why don't you send that, send your comments into the board and we'll add that to our list of things we're gonna send to Department of City Planning. Okay, we have Charles Nye. You may speak. Keep it limited, please.
Now, I was wondering if there can be any reach out to the disabled community, such as the Center for Independent Living New York, or maybe the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. We have a meeting on Friday. It's every quarterly. So this Friday would be a good date for you to, if possible, if you have availability, to show this plan, and maybe some of the homeless communities and some of the NYCHA buildings to really get some of those populations that get ignored. And I hope that my final point would be, I hope that the committee could also reach out to the 2 homeless shelters in the district that they have reps for, and also other subsidized housing places and shelters. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I don't think we can make it this Friday, but those are very good suggestions.
Okay, thank you. I think we're done with this. Thank you so much, Department of City Planning, for coming to us. I hope you'll come back again when you have more information. We want to be working very closely with you on this.
Do we want to send them official, reserve from? I'm just saying that, so that they can.
What did you say? Oh, well,
I just want to see, we should send them. something
Julie,
official.
please speak. Go ahead.
So, I don't know if this is a motion, but to have an official response to the Manhattan Plan for CB5, we could take some of the things that we put in our reso for MSMX and submit it as for this particular department to review as part of, our response to providing more
Is that a
housing.
motion?
Yes, seconds.
Okay, let's, any comments to the motion?
Well, I think this is, so I think they're looking for ideas on how to create 100,000 homes. And some of the ideas that we had in the MSMX rezoning proposal were about quality of life issues. I'm trying to sort of talk about them, but it doesn't seem like it's even, we don't even know what feedback they want yet.
MSMX
So
is
what you're
part of
saying-
the Manhattan Plan, you know that, right?
Yeah.
So what we're saying, what you're proposing is, yes, we can make sure that it focuses on housing. What we said, that's what you're proposing.
Yes,
right?
and I also
Okay.
think it feels a little early to have a motion about what we're gonna write when we haven't even seen their questions that they'd like us to respond to.
Comments from community boards are due end of the summer, early fall, right? That's the timeline. Can you explain the timeline for us?
Sure, the timeline is really that kind of June through September, but having said that, we know that, community boards, if you want to have time to deliberate, we recognize that the summer is not the best time to do that. Like, let us know what you're thinking and we want to hear from you, and so if that's later in September and we can have a heads up on that, that's great.
We have a motion and a second. Let's take it to a vote. And Julie will write up the resolution.
Yeah.
And so let's take it to a vote. Julie, do you want to?
Sorry, I haven't brought it up. I'll just say.
Can you repeat the resolution, please?
We would submit our comments from the MSMX Reso as a response to the Manhattan Plan for DCP to consider in the creation of housing for our district.
That was what we called the MOA to the,
Well, there's the
MSMF.
POA and then there was our reso to the actual zoning that they proposed for MX, which is very specific. But the idea is that, yes, we need other things besides housing, and we want them to think holistically. We had an issue where they didn't mitigate open space. It's the same thing here. If they're gonna put 100,000 units in Manhattan, that correlates to a certain amount of open space for the residents.
Green space infrastructure.
Okay, so, okay,
I'm sorry, the POA goes into the letter?
Yes.
It's the entirety of the letter, it's just the POA.
No, and the reso.
Yeah.
And
So
they
the
can-
so our response to MSMX is going to be copy and pasted in a response to a completely different
It
question.
could be an attachment to our reso saying, please consider our recent research on adding 10,000 units to Midtown South, and keep this in mind when you are creating housing.
Are we taking a vote or are we still in
we're
debate?
taking it, oh, well.
Okay, but
Anyone else want to make a comment?
I have a comment.
One comment, isn't it possible to consider this at our September meeting and?
It's supposed to be in by September,
By the end of September.
What is
That's all right.
but we would have to do this in August for it to be a full board vote in September. End of September, our meetings are the beginning of September. So we'd have to do it in August.
August 27th or something, that's our
Yes.
next meeting.
So go to executive board and to the full board beginning of September. The timing, the end of the month doesn't give us anything.
Because we can talk about it.
But Tristan, you had,
Well, I was gonna say, it just felt kind of strange to me to just copy and paste the same stuff without coming, like, I'm sure we can come up with new ideas that you would want them to consider.
and we can come up with more ideas between now and the next time we meet, which is August.
This is just to get a start.
So we could start with this and then we can add to it in August. We can add another resolution and update it, amend it.
We're gonna add, is there a benefit to having something doing now and then have a?
I think so,
broader
yeah.
one?
I think there is.
I mean, I think it's a no-brainer to send this. They are casting a very wide net for ideas and feedback from people. And we've already put this together. It's been discussed at the board level in this committee, which I wasn't on, but for hours and hours.
And
And it's
then
a
we-
prepackaged document already. It doesn't have to be our only comment. We have more comments later in August or September or whenever. We can add that to it later, but there's no reason to not send them this document that's already done and polished and the board's seen it a million times.
Annie,
I don't disagree that yes, there's been thorough research and work done on that. I wonder if there could be some sort of cover to say, we just heard about this at our meeting today. With the work that we've done in consideration of a similar scope, we would like all of the elements that we discovered in this research, sort of giving that a disclaimer, but setting the stage for it. We want this to be considered in the quarter that we'll be taking and having external conversations with others. We will come to you with more concrete, direct answers to this project closer to the end of quarter. So there's an expectation that this isn't CB5 singular stance. Could we just do like that?
I'm okay with that, but just, the 10,000 units is 10% of the Manhattan Plan. And we want them to consider it. I mean, yes, CPC and DCP totally ignored our comments, but we still have 3 months left to the year.
No, I totally.
So hopefully when we send this and they start negotiating with city council, some of our comments do get in there somewhere. It's not a flat no right now, it's still in deliberation. So I think it is important for us to, wherever there's opportunity to census and for DCP, you know,
Anyone else before these two guys have spoken a couple times? Anyone else have anything to say? Libby,
I like the idea of like, hey, here's what we already have, and then following up with like kind of a combination of like, if we have different ideas of different places that they can do interesting stuff that was outside of the scope of Midtown South, like the plants in the middle of the buildings, like stuff like that, in order to like create different ideas. I think that being contributive and additive to that, because the scope for us for this would be a little
So-
bit bigger, right?
so to follow up on this resolution, then everyone should be prepared for the August meeting to put your input in for what you want to add when we amend this and add more information now that we've had the summer to think about it. Does that make sense? So we will do that, but it depends on you to send the information to Julie so she can collate it, just like she did for the points of agreement. Julie's very good at putting all this together and being very specific. Now, Ankur, next.
So I think it makes sense to come back in August after we've had a chance to think about it. The purpose of this is to I'm looking right at the DCP, at the Department of City Planning's website about this. They want to hear ideas about how we can have 100,000 units in Manhattan. I'm not opposed to including ideas about things other than 100,000 units or types of amenities we'd have to create if we want to make the 100,000 units livable. I don't want to pre-commit to putting in stuff that was specific to the Midtown rezoning and ideas we had for that to this document. I would actually first like to think about what can we do to create more housing, and then we can add a few things about things that could help mitigate that. I think we're just sort of jumping ahead to saying, before you put housing in, I'd like to see all these other things happen first. It feels like they're asking us for feedback on needing more housing, and I'm not getting that from this.
Okay, that's not what we're saying,
But that's what I'm hearing,
Okay,
so.
but keep in mind, all of MSMX was about housing. It's all about housing. That's the main thing that was there. There really wasn't much anything else. It was about housing. This community board wants housing. This committee wants housing. We all want housing. We want to be heard, so we're gonna go at it again. Zool.
What I'm hearing from you, Jen and Connie, is that essentially this is a thought experiment. We want to create 100,000 new units in a decade, and let's hear all your ideas. So we're going to offer all these ideas with all concerns because we all want housing, but we want it to be livable housing in a livable neighborhood. It means clean air, clean water, sunlight, all the infrastructure, all the green space. So let's go ahead and take a vote.
And I just want to add, and everyone's telling us that our district is transit rich. It is transit rich, but it's transit overcrowded. I could barely get on a train tonight coming here from 14th Street.
And falling
There was
apart,
no room,
as
so
Julie pointed out.
transit is overcrowded.
Yeah.
And we're gonna bring, what, a couple 100,000 more people into our transit rich? Let's
Ever
call
more
it
delays.
transit overcrowded. I think it's really more descriptive. Does anyone disagree with me that our transit is overcrowded in this area?
And broken.
You
I
disagree.
disagree.
Okay.
Ridership is down since COVID.
I think that's.
I can't get on. I don't care what
Delays.
ridership or tells you. I'm telling you firsthand experience.
I think besides the point, let's just, 10,000 units is a big number. It's a decent number. We've already put together this plan for how to bring those about. This is we have comments that are pro-housing. Let's put that in the letter as a start, and then we can add to it.
And then there's one other thing I'd like to bring up, which is in our August meeting, Isabel
yes, we'll be
will be
presenting her housing.
her
research.
housing study, and that will be very, very important. So we'll see that in August. So August will be a big day for us to all come together with our ideas, our really brainstorming. So I would now like to take this to a vote. Is that okay?
But what are we voting for? Because it sounds like, should we vote in August with a cover letter that has all these extra things that you guys are gonna bring to the table with the attached reso and POA reso?
We're not gonna do it tonight
I
then?
think that makes sense.
It sounds like people
We'll
want to
work on it.
bring more items onto.
Well, I think let's take it to a vote whether or
Yeah.
not we're gonna do it now.
Yeah,
And
let's,
then because we have
we
to
can
vote
add
on
to it
it.
in August. Let's start with.
Well,
both
now it's
the-
gonna happen.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, my suggestion being like the cover to say, this is the part one of more
Right,
to
more to
come.
come.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly, that's what I think we're
That's what
voting
we're
on,
voting
yeah.
on. This is part one of
More to come, exactly.
Okay, got it. Thank you for clarifying.
What's the math in there? 12 community boards, 10,000 here, so 120,000.
Exactly.
We did our part. No, I like the idea of bringing it in July. Will this go to the July meeting?
No July.
There's no July.
We're on
meeting.
vacation.
No,
Go to-
no, not of us, of the board.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So the benefit of that is that instead of just the group that's sitting here coming up with
Yeah.
ideas, we can introduce the whole thing
Yeah.
to all
Yeah.
50 members
With
and
more to
Yeah.
come.
let them,
And
think
some
about
of
it
you
as
can
well. They
speak
live in
up.
different neighborhoods and.
And I would encourage some of you to speak up and talk about how wonderful this is for an opportunity for everyone on the board to bring their ideas, okay?
It's a thought experiment.
Exactly. Brainstorming.
Should we vote?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. Nancy?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Myrtle?
Yes.
Libby?
Sure.
Mike?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you. Sorry. Tristan?
Yes.
Seth?
Yes.
And?
Yes.
Yes.
No. Hooray for dissent. And August, bring your sleeping bags.
Okay, so now we are going to go to a ULURP application, which is seeking a zoning amendment, text amendment, and special permit for signage for 1551 Broadway in Times Square. Who will be presenting to that?
Hi, good evening, Eric Palatnik.
Hi.
How are you? Thank you for having us on this warm evening. So we're here today. May I begin?
Yes, please.
Great. Thank you for having us. My name is Eric Palatnik. I'm an attorney, and I'm here on behalf of Wharton Properties, and we're representing 1551 Broadway, requesting from you permission to create a text amendment that would allow for a special permit, which would allow for the proposed sign that you see in front of you to extend up to a height of 135 feet without setting back 6 feet at the 60-foot height mark. Now, that's a mouthful, and I'll give you everything about it so you can understand what it's about in a second. I have the whole presentation. But I wanted to let you know there's a few other people on the phone with us who are here that could present with me and answer any questions. One is a gentleman named Derek Darrow from Daktronics. They're the sign manufacturers. A gentleman named Bill Tagliafieri, and Bill is with Big Outdoors, and they manage and operate signs around the city. And also Val of Wharton Properties is on the phone, and Brian Cook of Capolino is on the phone. I should also mention that we communicated with you before the hearing today, and we presented to you a light study as well that should have been given and distributed to all board members. We're not planning on presenting that today unless you would like to hear about it, in which case Brian is available at the end of this presentation that I'm making about the sign and the text amendment. We'd be happy to present that to you. So with that as my precursor for everything, we're here because the sign that is on the property right now is the American Eagle building at 46 and Broadway. The sign that's on the property is outdated. It's old technology, it's LED technology, and it's outlived its useful life. You're seeing around Times Square the creation of anamorphic technology signs, which are single flexible panel signs. And what it allows a sign to do is create state-of-the-art, almost 3D type of vision when you look at it. It's really quite amazing. And that's all we're seeking to do here. In essence, we're keeping everything essentially the same, but we're just allowing it to be that one sign that you see in the middle screen right there that's sort of got a rainbow going through it, or you can see it also on the right and the left with the Netflix and the Coca-Cola. That's what we're here for, is the bottom part of the sign that you're seeing right here, where it says Netflix on the right and it says Coca-Cola with a glass on the left. The top portion of the sign, the thin tower that you see going up, that's as of right. The text amendment, and that exists. And the text amendment we're asking you for is not to change anything about that. We're simply asking for the permission for the lower portion of the sign to extend straight up in one panel. Otherwise, under the current rules, it would have to become two panels. So with that as the overview, I go to the next slide, please, Jacob. Jacob's controlling our screen. So on the left side, we have the existing conditions. You cannot see the tower sticking out from above the Pepsi can bottles there. We'll show you that in another picture. But the left side shows you, the picture at the lower left shows you what's there right now. Now you'll see that the bottom part of the sign looks like it wraps around the building and is new technology. And that's because it is. That's permitted to be there. And as you can see, it's separated from the second set of Pepsi bottles that you see. And that's because the current sign, and I'll show you that in clearer images later, is required, the second one is required to be set back 6 feet. So as a result, it cannot be one component. So what we're requesting to do here is essentially merge the two. In the image that you see here, the lower sign is the anamorphic technology. The upper sign is just vinyl wrap, just like you would see in a billboard in Oklahoma. It's nothing that exciting, but that's what we want to turn into the anamorphic technology. So you can see in the middle, we describe what we're asking you to do. The problem that we confront, and the reason why we're here, is because our lot is 6,000 square feet. There are numerous provisions written into the special Midtown District and the Theater Subdistrict that allows larger lots to make applications for chairperson certifications to city planning to have a sign like this, just like the Palace Theater has across the street. However, a smaller lot cannot avail itself of this. The American Eagle sign lot that we're at on 46th and Broadway is only 6,250 square feet. So under the current rules, they would have to provide a 6-foot setback at the 60-foot height mark. That's one thing we're seeking to waive. The other thing that they would have to provide, due to their frontage, they would have to have 3 signs on the property, just like they have now. This special permit will enable city planning to waive that requirement of both the 66-foot setback at the 60-foot mark and the requirement that there be a minimum number of signs on a property. So we'll go through that in more detail for you. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this just gives you more detail now about what I just said. So that way you have a visual to go along with it. The left side shows you everything we've been showing up until now. Nothing is changing. That's the proposal. And the right side just explains in explicit detail what we're seeking to do. And just to spell it out clearly, we're creating a new special permit that would modify the signage and frontage regulations for zoning lots that are 10,000 square feet or less, just like I just said. 2 signs would replace the existing group of 3 signs. And the tower up top, where it says Coca-Cola in script in a vertical fashion, is as of right. So go to the next slide. Now, the next slide shows you exactly what we're doing. So if everything I said was not clear up until now, at least the pictures should be crystal clear that you're looking at, and you can look at the language. The left side, the blue, shows you what's there right now. The lower sign is separated from the second sign, and the third sign is a tower that steps up, that raises up to 250 feet. That tower that goes up to 250 feet, that's as of right. We're not here to ask you for that, other than the fact that the current rules require 3 signs to be on the property because of its frontage. We're asking to have 2 signs. That's the right side, which is the tower, and then the one singular panel anamorphic sign that would be created on the right side. As you could see, the difference between the right and the left, other than a 15-foot height difference, which in my opinion is inconsequential, the big difference is it melds the screens. So it's like back in the old days when the TVs, the flat screens came out, people would put 4 flat screens together to make one big image. You'd go to the airport and that's how things would be advertised. Well, you don't need to do that anymore. And the technology is there now to make it one screen. And that's the whole thing that's driving this application. Next slide, please. I explained to you what we're doing in pictures and in words, and I've tried to be animated about it. This slide shows you even more clearly what we're seeking to do. The left side shows you what the request is. As you can see, if you look at the image on the left side and you start on the right side of that image, which is Broadway in the lower right, and you move to the left, you can see there's sign A. That's the existing sign. The new sign would be required to have a 6-foot setback. And it would be required to set back into that yellow area and rise above into the dashed area, just like it is right now if the law was not altered here. We're asking to eliminate that 6-foot setback and let it rise up straight flush with LED sign A. That's the whole request, really. Tower sign B, as I keep saying, is allowed as of right. There's no request to amend that. The right-hand side of the screen shows you what I've been trying to explain to you about the number of signs that are required. Due to the frontage requirements, which is 1 sign per 25 feet, you're required to have 3 signs on the property. That's what it is right now. That's the top image you see, as of right without waiver. You can see sign A, which is the one that I mentioned a moment ago, has already been changed. The anamorphic technology is in the lower portion. Sign C, which you can see now, I'll show you in the next slide or two, rises above that and is set back 6 feet. And sign B is the tower that's as of right that goes straight up. The bottom shows you it's all one. Sign A is just one thing. Sign A and sign C are no longer separated, but rather sign A has included sign C within it, and sign B remains. So hopefully I've made it abundantly clear. I'll move on now. So I think we could open that part up to questions later. This shows you the amount of sites that would become eligible to apply for the special permit from city planning for this applicant, for amendments to the sign regulations, if they decided to do so, and it would have to go through a full ULURP, special permit, EAS, the works. They'd have to be in 2 years worth of review. They'd have to come to your board, and everybody would have to consider whether or not it's worthy of getting the request. So that's who would be affected. These are the lots. Next slide, please. This slide shows you very clearly now what's there in real life. As you can see, it's labeled site in the middle. And as you can see, there are 3 signs and they're all black. That's because this is a Google Earth image or a satellite image, and it was taken before the fall of 2024, which is when the lower sign was replaced with the anamorphic technology, which was as of right. The upper sign was then wrapped in a vinyl, as was the tower sign, because those are hoping, if should you approve this, to be melded into the lower sign upon completion. The signs that are there now, we see them black because the technology is old and they're broken. So the reason why the sign at the bottom was replacing the anamorphic technology already wasn't because we were presumptuous that we would get the approval. It's because the sign was black and we had to replace it. And it's much like replacing a TV nowadays. You don't replace a TV nowadays with a 25-inch Zenith TV that's a console TV for the older folks in the room. You replace it with a modern, up-to-date flat screen. So that's why the lower sign has been put in place already, and we're hopeful that you would support this application and that we would be able to then do the upper sign. And if you go to the next slide, please. This shows that image and that explanation that I just gave to you in even more detail, and gives you more imagery that you've seen before on the left, but now it includes the tower up top, which is its current condition. The lower sign you could see is lit up. That's the anamorphic technology. The upper sign, the Pepsi bottles you see, are wrapped in vinyl, and the top tower is black. Next slide, please.
This is gonna be.
This is why we're here. We're showing you 2 other signs, which you know, we've all seen them. They're pretty cool, and they're really exciting. The owner of the property here, the developers, and they own this property. They themselves are excited to bring this to you. Big Outdoors is excited to bring this to you. Daktronics is excited to bring this to you. There's not that many signs like this in New York City, and we believe that what they've created across the street is stunning and visually, aesthetically appealing, and in line with the Times Square and the theater, with the Midtown and the theater subdistrict requirements and intent, which is to create the world's foremost concentration of entertainment and related type of uses. So this technology does that. Next slide, please. Again, it's trying to display to you what the technology is creating. It's really, if you haven't seen it, if you haven't been through Times Square recently and taken a walk through, I can understand why you might not. You should check out the signs that are there because they're pretty cool. And this is the same thing. It's 3D animatronic technology. And as you can see it at the bottom part, it's much more energy efficient than the current signs are. And of course, it's pretty cool. Next slide, please. So this just starts to give you more of what everything I was telling you about a second ago. The right side shows you what things are going to look like from West 46th Street. And that's where they won't really see the setback anymore. At the top on the right side, the current conditions has a 6-foot setback at the top half. The left side shows you what it's going to look like from Broadway. Again, the top half of that sign on the left is currently set back 6 feet. That's the portion that's wrapped in vinyl. We're asking you permission to create the special permit to let us create this image you see in front of you. Next slide, please. This just brings it down back to basics. We're just showing you what the tax lot is, so you can understand the property that we're talking about. And if you can go to the next slide, we just have some renderings. And I can take it to one more slide in the plans. If you can go to plan sheet DCP 06. Okay, so the right side of this page again shows you the area that's required to have the 6-foot setback. You can see the language in the middle of the screen where it says required setback. So what we're showing you here is that the top portion of that sign would have to be set back by 6 feet, and therefore it would not allow for the current technology to really take root and be operated the way that we're hoping to do so. So that concludes my presentation. As I mentioned a moment ago, we do have a very intense light study, which we'd be happy to show you if you wanted to see it. We know you have a schedule tonight, so we're not including it in the presentation right now, but we sent it ahead of time. And Bill is here. He's with Big Outdoors. And Derek knows everything there is to know about these signs. He's the technology guy. So we'd be happy to have any of us answer any questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank
We're gonna
you.
now go to questions on the committee. Anybody have questions? Myrtle was our lead committee member. Myrtle, why don't you go ahead with what you've discovered about this application, please?
Thanks, Nancy, and thanks for the presentation. Just a couple of quick questions. So actually, David pointed this out, but looks like the display area is going to increase by roughly 4,000 square feet. Is that right?
Yeah, just about. Yeah, correct.
Okay, but the floor area is not going to change. So is there going to be hollow space between where the building ends and where the display is?
Yes. The building is not being changed at all. There'll be no change in the structure of the building itself.
Okay, and then the tower is in place right now. I saw it was not turned on when I walked past it today. Is that just
It's not. Yeah, that's broken. It's broken. So that's why I was explaining before. The second half of the sign that's in place right now is wrapped in vinyl, and the tower is off. Bill may tell me if he's wrapped it in vinyl recently, but if you walk past it today, you'll see if it's off. Then he hasn't wrapped that in vinyl either. But that's
Right, the tower is not wrapped in vinyl, just the rooftop side currently.
But that's what's driving this. Everything's broken. That's why we're here.
Right, and so the anamorphic panel at the bottom, that is still 2 panels currently, right?
Well, Bill, do you want to answer that?
Yes, no problem. So right now there's a wall sign that is the lower portion that is an LED, and then the upper sign, the rooftop sign, is a vinyl sign.
Jacob, can you go to a picture of the site, please? A real life picture? Yeah, one of those. That's great. Thank you.
The lower bottles are anamorphic and the upper bottles are LED. Is that right?
So the one that's outlined on the bottom that says wings, burger, and pizza. Actually, I guess they both say that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Is an LED. The upper sign that is set back on top is currently a static sign, and the tower up top, which is behind it, is an older LED product that is no longer operational.
So the whole thing's gonna get replaced with brighter signs.
Yeah, so the LED, it's the tower itself, to be determined. That is as of right setback and falls within everything. Really, what the request is the static vinyl sign to be pushed out and be a continuous LED sign.
And the new signage is gonna be much brighter, significantly brighter than what exists right now.
Yes.
Okay.
With state-of-the-art technology.
Yeah, but I'll add this. The bottom sign is already that technology. That's already in place. So all we'll be doing is matching what's there. That's been there since November of 24.
And can you quantify that? How much brighter? I know at night it's dimmer than it is during the day, but compared to where it is currently, how much brighter are we talking?
20%, 50%, 75% greater.
So we do have the lighting expert, and we have a lighting study to, if we want to show that. But as of right, that upper sign, the static one currently can be an LED, right? So we could go change that to LED. It was before, but the technology, just kind of burnt out. So as of right, that could be there, but we do have a lighting study if we want to show some of that.
We don't need the lighting study. We just want to know, is it 20% greater, 30%, 50% greater? Just give us a percentage greater.
And it's also a bigger sign. It's not just that it's brighter.
Yeah,
it's also a
it
bigger
won't be
sign.
much brighter than what's there now, maybe 10% or so, but it'll just be bigger. Because like we said, you already have the existing signs in place right now at the bottom. That's not changing. It's the same exact technology. So we're just adding, we're doubling it. So you're not going to get an exponential change in the brightness. Like I said, if you've been walking past this or you've been looking at the ones across the street, they're the same.
Okay, Myrtle, you have more questions or, okay, Kevin?
Just while we're on the brightness, you mentioned the anamorphic sign across the street is already in place. Would this be the same brightness level as the one that's already there?
Yes.
That's a good question.
Yes.
Thanks for asking that.
Yes, it is. And just so everyone's aware, the brightness of the sign is made and intended just to focus towards the square, right? That's basically where everything's focusing is. But yes, it's the same brightness levels that's there now.
Libby?
So I know you said that it burnt out, the part that's the vinyl sign, like could be an LED right now, but I was wondering if you're bumping it out that, like, what, 6 feet and going up, it's probably in the lighting study, but do you have a percentage of the increase by being closer to the neighbors? Is there like a disproportionate amount of light that they will then be exposed to in a different way, or does it hit different angles of who will be impacted by that light? Or contrarily, does it make more things in shadow that then won't see some of that light and the ambient sort of light pollution from that?
Derek or Brian, do you want to answer that?
I'll start and then have Derek correct me when inevitably you need a better explanation than what the urban planner can give you. If you look at the lighting study, the way new signs are designed is to focus light downward towards where the audience is. You don't want to waste that much energy going up and bright. So the lighting study, as it pushes down, the neighbor that is most affected is the Marriott Marquis sign specifically. It actually, the brightest spot of light that hits any building is the sign, which will overwhelm, obviously, any light coming to it. The most important thing is when you look at the brightness of these signs is the new technology, which allows you to turn the dimness down, ensures that as you get sort of half a block away, if you peruse that lighting study later, those purple areas at night, those are about as bright as a street light. So it dissipates out very quickly because of the new technology. I hope that answered the question. If not, we have even better experts than me.
A little bit more like the angles of it, but that is helpful to know that it is pointed down. I just know that when certain displays happen, I see a lot more light in my apartment, many,
Okay.
floors away.
Questions?
So will you guys be next year or the year after that to just build one giant sign so we can turn American Eagle into one giant IMAX screen?
No, we'd be here for that right now if we were doing that. Our client is not shy.
Let's do it.
We have no intention of anything more than what you're seeing here. And if we did, we'd have to come back to you. But We've been at this for 3.5 years, so we're in no rush to come back and go another 3.5.
Okay, any other questions, David?
Eric, just to understand when I looked at the CPC presentation, it showed the formula that you have, I guess, 72 feet of frontage on Broadway. And that, that then drives the total square footage of signage that you're allowed. Can you just give us quickly, like how do you get from 72 feet of frontage to 22,000 feet of?
It's
signage?
not, yeah, sure, I'd be happy to. Let me clarify. The correlation is not square footage of signage, it's the number of signs. Every 25 feet, you have to have one sign. So I guess what it was designed for back in the day, in the 70s, and when it was created, was to make sure that a building didn't have any vacant portion of it, that everything had signage. So when you had a long frontage on a building, because the technology then didn't allow for these electric signs to be that big. So that forced you to create the whole frontage. So here now, technology's now come so far that you don't need that formula anymore. And obviously everybody wants to cover every square inch of the property with signage. So it's one per every 25 feet of frontage triggers one sign. This has 70 something feet of frontage that triggers 3. And as a result, that's why we're asking to waive it to 2.
And the size of the signs, what limit?
There, as of right, that has nothing to do. Yeah, there's no, we're not violating the restrictions on the size of the signs.
No, I'm just wondering what are the restrictions? I mean, not that
I can get that for you. I don't have that in front of me. We can provide that to the board after the call, but we're in compliance.
Questions, anyone else? Myrtle, you had another question? No, okay. All right, any questions from the public?
Sorry, great question.
Raise your hand, no questions from the public. Okay, so now we're gonna go into our closed business session. Julie, you had a question or a comment?
Okay, I guess I'm just worried that this is gonna set precedent, like, it sounds like this is new technology and are all signage gonna need that extra depth? And like, why doesn't DCP just address this in their zoning? Instead of us doing this piecemeal.
Really Blade Runner country here.
By the way, the applicant, thank you for your presentation. We're now in the business session. So you may listen.
I mean, is that a question for them? I don't know, or,
Probably a question for that.
yeah.
City planning.
Yeah.
Any other comment, then comment, any other comments?
Mike.
Michael.
I would support this application because it's Times Square. It's supposed to be bright lights, it's supposed to be signs, it's supposed to be commercial. There are no housing units right next to it. I would support it.
Seth.
I agree.
Kevin.
We just had an application on Landmarks last night for a landmark building to have new signage on it. And a couple of our public members said something effectively the same, that the signage is big and garish and whatever, but it's Times Square, so we approved it.
Any other comments?
And it will be seen from Mars.
Okay, we're not in Mars. Anyone? Myrtle.
Can I just read what Kim had written?
Yeah, Kim was not able to be here, but she wrote some comments. And I forwarded them to Myrtle to take a look at, so let's share.
So just her comments are encourage the applicant to monitor ongoing light levels and respond to community feedback. Can we ask them if that's possible?
Okay, so applicant, we have a question for you, and you can answer this question.
Is it possible for you to monitor the ongoing light levels and respond to community feedback if they think that it's intrusive or it's excessive? Was that something that you would be open to?
Yeah, we're not, yes, because we don't think you're gonna cause you any trouble at all, because nobody's complained yet about what's there right now, and if it was gonna cause a problem, it would have already caused the problem.
And then, would you consider adaptive dimming or curfew protocols for late night hours?
No, that's when it's at its best. It's its best at late night. That's when people come to see it. It's like dimming a firework. That's like dimming a fireworks show on 4th of July. That's the whole show. I mean, people come there, and you know that. You guys Times Square.
Just to that point, every sign that we install and every sign that's in Times Square has adaptable lighting, and the nits on this sign is going to run significantly lower at night than it does during the day. You don't need the brightness levels to combat sun or anything. So the nits significantly go down at night.
All right, well, and the last one on here was provide follow-up data on actual sign performance post-installation. I think you've answered that.
Anything else, Monroe?
No, that was it.
Okay. Any other comments? Are we ready? Did someone want to make a motion?
Let's take it to a vote. Can I just,
What's that?
well,
Go ahead.
well, I just have
David.
something I would want to include Julie's concept that rather than us, now having 15 new separate applications, that they ought to just update the regs and tie out to what the latest technology is.
Who should do that?
The DCP.
This is an application. This is a,
I'm saying we could approve this, but our resolution could say, because what the implication of this is, we're now gonna get 15 more of
Right.
these. As everybody says, oh, I'm updating to the latest anamorphic signage, I don't want a setback, so.
Just like
we're
on the
not gonna have
master
to-
plan. Yeah.
do we want to write a letter or we just add that to the
Add
resolution?
it to the-
Yeah, and then
like,
CC,
Why
DCP
do
on
we
it.
have to do this 15
Good feeling on this.
We've done that
Good.
Ready to
before.
go?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a second.
Yeah.
And, okay, let's vote.
Seth,
Yes.
am I?
Oh, you're
yes?
writing it down?
I have it.
Okay.
I'm a yes, Ankur,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Tristan,
Yes.
Libby.
Yes.
Kim's not here, you're Annie,
Yes.
David. David, sorry, Myrtle,
Yes.
Zool.
Yes, with dark sunglasses.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, the resolution passes. It looks like this is an application has been approved. Thank you very much. And the full
Thank you.
board will vote on it in July 10th.
All right, we'll see you after 4th of July. Take care, everybody.
Okay, thank you. East River.
We won't be able to see anything.
It's East River this year? I didn't know that. Thank you for telling me.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we're going to go to our presentation by our
Fund for the
Fund
City
for
of
the
New-
City of New York fellow who has been studying public bathrooms, toilet rooms, restrooms in our district.
Yes.
This is Sonia.
Hello, I'm Sonia.
And tell us how to pronounce your last name.
It's pronounced Udup. It
doesn't-
doesn't, there's an H at the end, so it looks like an F.
And how's it spelled?
It's UTHUPH. Hello, I recently graduated from my master's in landscape architecture. So for all your green space that you're planning, you can come back to, but.
Do you want to put your screens or?
Yeah, maybe,
Are you?
I'm not on the Zoom. Do you have an HDMI to? by chance?
No, I don't know.
Can
but
I
do you
can
want to
share
send it
it
to me?
with you, yeah.
Send it to me and I'll share. And then one, we could pull out that voting. I stand that.
We wanted her to come because the last time you presented, we really couldn't hear what you were saying.
Oh, that was Isabel, yeah.
Oh, maybe it was Isabel, but I just didn't want to take a chance.
Right.
And Isabel was supposed to join us because she's done a study on housing. But she's came down with something. Oh, So,
We
so
like
stay
that
away
person.
from, stay away.
I just, send it to you. You know?
Gmail?
Yeah. Share your.
So there's no resolution on this. This is just a presentation. It's not a public hearing either.
And your.
Got it.
By design.
Okay. Share screen.
Humor.
Yeah.
Is it all right if I ask you to like put the next?
Yeah, definitely, go ahead.
It's not, sometimes annoying. Okay, hello, everyone. Welcome to my presentation. So,
I don't know if you guys are familiar with Mayor Adams' initiative that's called You're in Luck. I don't know if he's tried to make a pun there, but I just went all the way, so you're in luck. You guys know why public bathrooms are significant. And go through this, homelessness is a major issue in this district, especially like compared to all 5 boroughs, the highest populations of homeless people are in this district. Next slide.
The registering?
Oh, yeah, yeah, there we go. Okay, so basically, Julie and Nancy asked me to do a survey of where all the public bathrooms are, in order to be useful to future legislation, which has just been passed by Councilmember Nurse that allows for new bathrooms to come. So we want to know, where are the current bathrooms? What conditions are they in? And where are the gaps in where bathrooms aren't, essentially?
Speak loud.
Oh, okay, got it.
Outside voice.
Outside voice.
Yes.
Sorry to you.
Right, we have to tell her if you can't hear her. She has
Okay,
some, but in back, it's hard.
Next slide. All right, so basically I just made a list and I made a map and I assessed the bathrooms in person myself. Next. Okay, so how did I do this? How did I find the bathrooms? I went through the MTA's list of the subway stations they had. I went through libraries and parks with bathrooms, and Got to Go Layer, which is really popular on TikTok if you guys are familiar. It's very useful. You should download it. It's a Google Maps layer that shows all across New York where are their bathrooms, not only public bathrooms, and they list the codes of private bathrooms. Super useful. You should, yeah, definitely download it. Got to Go. Okay, next slide. Okay, so methodology, what I was looking for in bathrooms typically are these like things like this is,
Where?
oh, you know what? Yeah, this is the Herald Square, so they have the.
I am the highly granular New Yorker in the room.
These changing C colors are extremely rare and it hasn't
Very
been
rare,
proved
guys.
if they reuse them or not. So allegedly, there are new ones every time. So this is the state of the art bathroom in Herald Square. And yeah, these are the kind of things I was looking for. And obviously we don't find them in every bathroom, but in the state of the art ones we do. So next slide.
Although Bryant Park is.
That's, Ryan Park is great, but it feels like you're trying to get into a club, you know? I'll get it.
Carnegie Hall.
What'd you say?
It's Carnegie Hall.
Yes, great. Okay, so another issue that came up a lot during my foot surveys is the issue of labor. And so who is maintaining those bathrooms? What conditions are they in? Are they allowed to sit? What are their hours? How many people are working there, you know? And so that was a big issue. This was in the Trump Tower where I had a long interview with my limited Spanish. And I got what I could out of that. And I'm also very curious about who is able to use. Okay, I'm also very curious about who is allowed to use a bathroom, even though it's technically public. Are homeless people actually permitted to enter? Are trans individuals permitted to enter? Because most bathrooms, as you may have noticed, are women and men. Restrooms, even though New York City's law allows people to use a bathroom according to their gender. But just it's really up to the labor force to permit it. So here's my running location list. Yeah, you can go to this one. I categorized them into what they were. So there's 31 bathrooms in this district. We have parks, hops, subways, drop-in centers, which are pretty much only for use by people who are homeless. It's not really available to the general public, but they are able to go in there and use a shower or a restroom or take shelter or grab a meal. Also, libraries also a big source. And these are other non-POPs, private entities that I considered public enough. So I included them. So there's St. Thomas Church, who doesn't deny people, Macy's on 34th and Rockefeller Center, which you don't have to be a consumer at these things to use the bathroom. Okay, next slide. Yeah, so these are stats. The largest number of bathrooms are from the subway. So each color of toilet is a category. So blue is the MTA operated bathrooms. Next slide.
Nice code.
But 6 pops. 6 pops. Yeah. Well, you guys have tons of pops, but only a few of them have bathrooms.
How many pops do we have?
Total in New York, 600.
Now, how many?
District.
Any idea?
We have a majority of pops.
So it could be like a
We have
couple
most of
hundred.
them.
Yeah.
And we've got 6 bathrooms, so like
This is it.
0%, 0.1%.
There was a time at which
Not
the
necessarily
Department of City Planning required POPs to provide bathrooms, and then for some reason they stopped.
We never did, but we did send them a reso saying they should consider this as a
That was
requirement.
my understanding was that they did it once successful
In the
in
eighties.
the eighties.
I don't.
So here is a map I made of where are those located, where are the bathrooms located and what kind they are. So this orange one is the one like outlier, which is the one automated public or self-cleaning toilet in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Or
25 cents.
25 cents, so you need a quarter on you
Closed
to
at
use
night.
it. Is it?
It does. They shut it down for a minute.
I didn't see any hours on it. Okay,
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah.
You're the expert on this. I should have kind of consulted with you. But like when I came to use that bathroom, it was completely like occupied for an indefinite number of time. So here's the map. Next slide. Oh, this is just some labels on there. So yeah, that's some things. And then I also made a Google Maps layer, and I'm adding photos to all of them. So most of them have photos of surveys I've done. So the same similar colors, purple is POPs, brown are private, non-POPs buildings, blue is MTA. This is that automated public toilet is operated by DOT. So it's a dark green, and then yellow is libraries. And so anyone can access this and you guys can embed it on your website if you like. Yeah. And then some of the photos from the restroom surveys I've done. Next slide. I could go through a lot of them with you guys, but I know there's limited time. So here's that photo of the self-cleaning toilet. I had a lot of takeaways about it. Was pretty stinky considering it was self-cleaning. I smelled the pee.
And people have been caught inside it while it's cleaning.
Whoa, really?
No, it's
I
not
thought people
possible.
try and do
I
that.
know.
There's a wait.
They got stuck inside.
So when you say that you tried to get in, it was
It was like a,
occupied.
yeah, it was a red light. If you go back, Julie, you see here, there's a red light that says occupied. So I just waited there for about 30 minutes and I was like, no, and there's no sound inside. So I don't know if someone had used a quarter just to chill in there. And like, I respect that, like 25 cents for some privacy, but
Isn't it time? That's time.
allegedly,
Yes, yes.
but I
time to
was
have it.
definitely there for more
And
than
there's a
15
yellow light.
15 minutes max, it says on the
Yeah.
signage.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen people take videos where they like stand on top of the toilet and then it cleans and then you just stay there. So that might be what happened.
Maybe that's what.
So yeah, there's just, I thought it was technically 24/7, but apparently it's
And I
not.
think it cost $1 million.
Oh, yeah, that's disappointing. Oh, next
Shake
slide.
Shack should pay for it.
Yeah.
They should have, they should have a bathroom. You can go to this slide. And then, oh yeah, Evelyn's Playground in Union Square, is the children and, their caretakers bathroom. So, I'll get into this later, but some of the limitations, but also privileges of my study is that I am a young woman. And so like I can get into certain places that a lot of other people can't. So I did not have a child with me and I went to this bathroom and there's a security guard that lets people in that bathroom. So if I was an unhoused person visibly such, like I doubt I would be able to use that. Next bathroom, this whole place was wet. It's very gross, actually. Top tower, I didn't know was a POPs. Awesome. Like I love how they tried to make this as like not readable as possible. The fact that it's for the public. Next slide.
It's a very
Yeah.
popular protest space.
Yeah, so you can use their restroom. And the woman I talked to who worked there, she said that homeless people come there to use it all the time. I thought that they might be hostile in there to people who are unhoused, but she said she has no problem and neither do her coworkers. People come there with like suitcases all the time. So it really is up to the labor force whether or not, or like who gets to use the bathroom. Obviously the signage was really hard to read. Like I wouldn't have noticed that if I wasn't like really looking for it. Yeah, and it's on the bottom floor. Union Square, also quite wet, adult bathroom. It was fine. It wasn't that bad. Next slide. Okay, the bid managed bathrooms are the highest quality bathrooms. Those are also the ones I worry about the labor force. If you can see, this woman she was the one that was like, 3 girls or 3 women come in now, 4 men come now. Cause she was like, basically monitoring the amount of people coming in and out. This is the men's line, and then there's a woman's line, which I personally hate, like being like, I'm in the women's line, and let me go in. Just something about it is so icky to me that's what I meant. That felt like I was getting into a club where they were like, oh, you're not allowed. The gender ratio is off. But she was really
The women's line is always longer.
Right. As always, yeah, there's always.
Isn't this the Bryant Park Corporation?
It was.
It is.
Yes,
That is the bid.
yeah. So like she wasn't able to sit during her shift and barely had any time to speak with me, and they have to clean constantly. And their shift might be 30 minutes, or sorry, their break might be 30 minutes long. Yeah, and of course, there's lots of rules. You can't wash anything other than your hands at the same like that.
But you don't have any issues getting it.
I didn't have any issues getting in. But yeah, if I started to brush my teeth, then it might be a problem. But obviously, people who are in the house like need to wash a lot of things, so they would be not allowed to stay until. Okay, slide. This one was the worst bathroom I visited. Times Square. Next slide, I'll show you. This was the only stall that was unlocked. There was just pee in there, but like it was just so tiny and like stinky. No visible soap. And there's like these odd boxes in the subway stations that you're supposed to get paper out of, but I literally couldn't figure out how to do it. But that one had toilet paper in it. So yeah, that was the worst one, but the subway stations weren't as bad as I thought, actually. I would use this if I really needed to. Next slide. Okay, drop-in centers, there's 2 in this district. Like I mentioned, only people who are actually in house can use it. There's this buzzer here where they look at you in the camera and they're like, what do you want? And I was like, hello, I'm just wondering, can anyone use the bathroom here? They're like, do you need to use the bathroom? Go to Penn Station. And I was like, oh no, I just have some questions. So then I came in and they explained to me, they are extremely full at all times. And so they can only allow people to use it sometimes during the day, but especially on such a hot day that I went like yesterday, the entire place was full of people who needed just a cooling. Next. Dirty, cold, next one. This really cool vintage radiator that they had there, if you turn the button on.
Vintage.
But like it didn't smell at all. It was just like physically covered in dirt, but not dirty with human waste, which was good. Okay, next. Penn Station, this is listed as a 24/7 bathroom. It's not. It is closed several hours.
And all of them close for maintenance several times a day.
Yes.
So if you're Long Island Railroad, you have to have it on New Jersey Transit or
It's very unhelpful that there's actually no 24/7 bathrooms in this district or anywhere in the city. It would be in this district if that were. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, they're super clean and beautiful, and I thought this note was cool. Sprinkle when you twinkle, please be neat and white off the seat. That's just a poem, by the staff. That was cool. I don't know, I'm learning a lot,
turn it into a cafe.
It was beautiful in there, really well kept. I didn't see any service workers to talk to, and they also have menstrual product dispensers there. Next. Yeah, okay, so as I mentioned, some of these limitations, I'm getting inconsistent treatment. I wasn't able to access men's rooms, so I have no idea what conditions they were in. And there's seasonal variation in restroom availability. Some of them close and open for longer in the winter and summer. And then service workers sometimes were like weirded out by me asking them questions. They didn't want to talk or they weren't there at all. So I didn't get information from everyone. Okay, next slide. But yeah, bid manager, the best, highest or the cleanest facilities that are public, but they have the highest labor concerns. I spoke to this man and he had to stand there his entire shift and serve as kind of both a security guard and attendant to the bathroom. And he said his shift was 30 minutes and it was an 8-hour shift. So that was really insane that he could sit. Yeah, homeless inclusion is completely up to the workers. It's not standardized. Yeah. Next shift. Oh, sorry, next slide.
Also between there and Old Dairy is St. Francis Church, which does allow a lot of people.
Is that the big one? I think I went there and they said no to go to a Pops.
No, they're generally because they feed there and
Right.
they do help. So that, one side is 32nd, the back side is 31st for most people.
Okay, then I'll add that to
Between
the
7.
Okay, got it. Cool. Yeah, many Pops can have restroom capacity, but they simply choose not to. Next slide. Oh, yeah, okay, we'll just skip through this since we're close on time, but I was just looking, I made like buffer zones of a 3-minute walk from every restroom to see where those gaps are, and I can see them clearly here. Next. And then these are the yellow dots are the bathrooms outside of the district, but like that are still walking distance, so that we just to see where the overlap is. And like this is a good indication of where the gaps are, like in Times Square, we could use a lot more bathrooms. Yeah, next.
Big signs.
Yeah. We're gonna make more signs.
Right, very right.
Right, and then just, yeah, more gaps.
Animatronic there.
Right. Next slide. And then, yeah, where public urination complaints, a good indication of where the bathrooms are necessary. Yeah, and then also homeless street condition complaints are a good place to put bathrooms also. Yeah, next slide. Next, that's just the overlap of the walking buffer, and then, yeah, the legislation, it was on. Next. And yeah, so I think we kind of went over this, tell pops to include bathrooms, incentivize businesses to let the public use their bathrooms. Design competitions to reduce the costs of designing a bathroom, which are insane. And maybe interim bathroom trailers in public plazas until these things are formally constructed. And yeah, living wages for bathroom attendants and expand hourly availability. Those are my proposals. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Incentives for commercial businesses to provide public restrooms. Have you put much thought into that?
I know that was a thing before, and then I know in different cities, like internationally, they also do that.
So what's an example of an incentive to a commercial business to do that?
That's a good question. I don't know, I guess like being on a list is also kind of a form of promotion to that business. Like, for example, I used to work at a bookstore and we were on a list like, oh, here's a bookstore that offers a public bathroom. Then it also is like, oh, well, I'll come support that bookstore, whether or not I need to use a bathroom because I respect them for offering that.
So kind of it's a free advertising.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm sure there's a lot of other like monetary ways, like more directly.
Yes, community toilet scheme.
Do you have an estimate of how many businesses are letting folks, like Starbucks used to have a policy where they would not turn people away at some point? Like Gina, what the status is of that right now?
I pretty much just looked into true public bathrooms, like not code required ones, but if I look at the got to go layer, I could see about that, because I guess it would depend on which ones don't require codes, so that'd be a good way to.
Or even if they don't require a code, sometimes they won't let you in, or, you have a sign saying
Right,
it's only
right.
for paying customers.
I
Just
don't.
curious.
Yeah, that is a great question. Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of unrelated, but the mapping data is really cool. Where did you get the 311 data?
Oh, where did I think you can go to literally 311.gov and then like search their different complaints and they will map it for you. And like you can even pick the time, and so I picked from like really recently, until April 2025. So there was 3 months before that. So then I just wanted to see what's most recently happening, where are the complaints.
It's great.
It's really comprehensive.
So we have on a screen, I just happened to be walking by Bryant Park bathroom.
Oh, nice.
And a whole busload of tourists got off and lined up. They were high school students coming to the city. So the fact that this bus group had no place to go to the bathroom when they came to the city is hurting our tourism. This is something we really need to address. Do you see how many women are in that line?
But also, and actually, unfortunately, Mike is not here, but there are tour guides who do take people to this public restroom.
Yeah, but there's only like how many toilets
I
are in
think
that
there
for
were
women?
3 to 4 stalls in
I
that.
think there are
Yeah,
4 stalls for women.
We're waiting
Yeah.
or more, just getting all of the people on the bus.
Yeah.
They came from Pennsylvania or somewhere to see the city. It's bad for tourists, for busloads of tourists to come.
I
And they
just
wanna
happen to
come.
know all these residents. I was a movie location scout and I can get into a nuclear plant. There is no place that you can't get into when you're a film scout.
Okay, so, so that's our presentation.
There are no nuclear.
And, I don't know if we wanna put this up on our website. Julie, what is your thought?
I can send you the Google Maps link also, so you can, because you have one already, a Google Maps
Right.
layer on your website.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to know we have 31 bathrooms.
Yeah.
In our district and where they are from our website, so.
And actually, you can help us find out 6 out of exactly how many pops
Yeah,
are in the
that's a good-
district. That would be a really nice thing to know. And then also if we gave some thought into what are the incentives for commercial businesses to make their restrooms available to the public.
Again, send your questions to Julie,
Julie
because
gets all,
she's our public bathroom
Expert.
expert.
she's had everything expert.
And you need to take
appreciate it.
notes from this guy.
Yeah,
apparently.
absolutely.
So if we have nothing else to discuss, we could adjourn this meeting.
Motion.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. So let's close out. And
Not a fan.